Good afternoon. How are you? Well, it's pretty cold. High 30s, low 40s. Going to drop below that. There are winds, not as much when I get to walk on the road, even with the leafless trees that surround me. So that's good. And of course, the feed and shelter wait for no animal. They must be provided. And so today we had some fun feeding the chickens and the pigs and putting the inventory in large containers, trash cans, so that it's accessible easy when it rains or it snows or whatever does come. So that's how we're preparing. And today I'm dressed very comfortably. You would think I was going skiing, but today I'm just taking care of myself. I think I should go gently into the cold and the wind. Now, we talk about cold here, but in Iowa they have real cold, below zero. They give a range, I think from -1 to -19 with the chill factor. So we'll see how that works out. The thing about the Iowa caucus is, well, what prompts a voter in Iowa to support Trump, according to polls, by like 50 or 53% as compared to the other candidates. Now, I don't know how any of them could be supported, but there it is. What does that say about the voters? And then undecided voters always drive me crazy. Now, particularly in this thing in Iowa, in which the candidates have spent fortunes in Iowa nailing it down. And if you can trust what the candidates say about each other, we have DeSantis spent millions upon millions in that state, been to all the counties in the state, has people on the ground and so forth. And they're sort of hinting, wait until you see what surprises I have. And maybe he does. But they're doing caucuses. And a caucus is BS democracy. You do a primary, you do a vote, you check it out, and it is not dependent upon, is Monday going to be an impossibly snowy day? It's dependent upon people expressing themselves in voting by mail or voting in person in a specific arrangement. There is nothing so good about a caucus. Now, a million years ago, shave a few off that number, I wanted to run for Congress. And some wanted a caucus. And I always thought a caucus was a way to construct a process that was outcome determinative, meaning that was calculated to help someone else get elected. I'm not saying they were in on it or not, but that's the way it is. And so I demanded a primary. And primaries cost money, and they have to set it up on a special day. I didn't care. What is the cost of democracy? And Iowa, in my opinion, is so backwards that we're saying we can't guess what's going to happen, and the beliefs of the people will be done by this caucus method, in my opinion, imperfectly, rather than if they actually voted. So nobody seems to talk about that. Why does Iowa have a caucus? And if this bad weather doesn't make that clear, and all the visits up there to, twist arms, and, well, endorsements are okay, but they don't always carry any weight with the voter. I mean, if a candidate's going to say, I want you to support me against your own best interest, are you going to rely on the president or past governor or senator or American vice president or anybody like that? No, probably not. And here's another question, and it's the immunity to commit murder. Where in the entire planet does somebody say, yeah, the leader of our government, he can kill someone, and if not impeached for it and not convicted for it, it's okay. We can't prosecute him. Where is that ever said? So we have a caucus system that makes no democratic sense, small d, and invites, even if they didn't have a caucus, Democrats to come in and to muddle the result of the Republican that is chosen. Now, that's why I believe in party registration. You choose a party, you participate in your party's primaries or caucuses, although I don't think you should do caucuses, and you go on from there. Now, in my day as a chair, a Democratic chair, I had to run a few elections, and we did run a caucus, but we did it when really there was no opposition. And so the day of the actual caucus, firehouse primaries they call them, but they're caucuses basically. People come, wait, sit, vote, leave. Then if there's no competition, then you don't have to hold the caucus. So that's a different beast. So Trump, by his lawyers, tells us that he thinks he's 007. This guy has a place in Fantasia where he believes things about his ability that are alien to the man who tries to put on this emperor's clothing as if he is of genius and of character and gives a damn about any Americans. So he wants the right to be able to kill someone or to do anything he wants. And some will remember it's the corollary of what Nixon said when he left office and gave an interview. And he was asked about it, and he said, when the president does it, it is the law. I'm paraphrasing, but I'm pretty sure that's about right. It's certainly the sense of what he said. And that's not a democracy. That's the kingdom we gave up in our revolution when we said, Britain won't tell us what to do. Britain runs us without us having representation in how we're run. Rules on high, what it should be like in the colonies in America. So we're going to go from 1776 until now and allow this baboon from Fifth Avenue to tell us who we are and what we can do and what freedom means, and that he can do whatever he wants, whenever he wants? I don't think so. Now, another breakdown in our American system is the spending bill. We have a new speaker, Republican Speaker of the House, Johnson. He has a split Republican caucus, or conference as they call it, and there are enough people in his caucus to defeat a win that has to be based entirely on Republican votes. That said, the Democratic minority leader is prepared to cooperate, provided that the deal that we made with him back when is the deal that is voted on and passed. It remains to be seen if that will happen. But that's the scheme. So then the question comes, do we move on to door number 3 and choose another speaker who can't get anything done? But that's where we stand. That's one of our problems. Now, some say we're not saying enough about who Trump is and what he does and how he would hurt us. And the failure to do that has him doing well in polls, not just among Republicans, but among Democrats as well. Well, that's not acceptable. And so there's going to be $440 million spent filling in the gaps. Normally this would be opposition research, but you don't have to be a genius to figure out the opposition research when it comes to Trump. It's all out there every day he's doing something. And so what's coming up? Well, there are a couple of things. One is we're waiting to see what the U.S. Circuit Court does with the immunity arguments so poorly raised, so astonishingly dumb, so spectacularly offensive, whether they will make their ruling this week or next week, but I think it's coming soon. And I believe, as I've said in Twitters, that this will be a magical moment. There are times in cases when something happens that sort of sums up it all. And the judge expertly cornering Sauer, S-A-U-E-R, Trump's lawyer, when asking him, exactly what do you mean by immunity? Could he go out, kill someone and not be prosecuted? And the answer is basically, yeah, he could. Because the only way that Sauer, on behalf of Trump, saw there could be any discipline or sanction was if he had first been impeached and been convicted. Well, we've seen how the Senate will accept the most intolerable activity and look the other way as the entire nation is put at risk. So we're going to hear about immunity maybe this week. We're going to hear about the civil litigation by the Attorney General. Is it going to be so many millions, hundreds of millions of dollars? What is going to happen? Is he going to be barred, Trump and his crew, barred from doing business in New York? Very important stuff. And then we have, if you will, chapter 2. I don't know if 2 is fair, maybe 3 is better, but against Carol, the writer, whom Trump sexually abused and then went on to deny it right after he was convicted at the first trial. And when I say convicted, there was a judgment against him at the first trial. It's a civil proceeding. There's something very interesting going on elsewhere, and it is the Pope. It's interesting. He has taken some positions that are probably born of his experience in South America. And he's of that brotherhood of Jesuits that taught me. So he has a mind like a steel trap even at his advanced age. And he's taking heat for approving blessings at same-sex marriages. And the second and more recent one, which surprises me a little bit, is that he's against surrogacy of children. Now, I don't know if that's, to shorthand it, an offense against gays having children by surrogates, or it's the victimization of the poor to agree to be a host mother in a surrogacy contract. There are no reasons in my mind for having surrogate children if these abuses are outlined. And it is not a basis, in my opinion, that the partners are of the same sex who are having a surrogate carry the child for them, perhaps because they're at an advanced age or ill or whatever. So it's among the reasons why religion doesn't speak for my mind or my heart or my soul. Because people go through the worst contortions to compromise their own identity to satisfy a religion they've belonged to since they were a child. And they will also advocate for this position, which is really alien to their spirit and existence. I don't see any reason to do that. But others may need to, or no one's ever said to them, what do you think about this? My own illumination, if you will, having been surrounded by Roman Catholics, but also kids who came from families with different religions. In the Bronx is Jewish, but there are also religions for persons of color, and then there were atheists and everything, and that exposure helped me. And then I saw things that priests did and pronouncements that were made and how children were treated, and I'm not talking about the most sensational abuses. And I just didn't see that as a religion I could embrace. Not out of fear, not out of fulfillment, not for any reason. The The world also is taking a look at what's going on with China and Taiwan. There's been a democratically elected progressive, Lai Ching, I think is the correct way to say his name, Lai Ching. And we may expect some saber rattling from mainland China, and it may be perceived that we're overreaching between helping in the Ukrainian discord on the side of Ukraine against Putin and helping Israel in the Mideast mess, which is an ever-expanding war base. And you have to ask the question, and I'm curious to see the finding of the court in The Hague, both as to what Israel has done, but I don't understand why there hasn't been a question about Hamas. And I don't know why there isn't a world coming together saying, is this who we are? Shouldn't we, consonant with what we think are the values of the UN and the former League of Nations, and what it means so close to the season of peace on earth, shouldn't we be doing something to end this war somehow? And the numbers are just terrible. So there's that. Visiting other profiles in stupidity, grossness, and annoyingly present and loud, we have Representative Big Mouth Green. And she's very excited and intends to put in the public record pictures of Hunter Biden naked. Who are these people anyhow? I won't even say it. I mean, oh yeah, I will say it. Imagine Green naked. Do you want to see Green naked? Or Hunter or anybody else? What kind of a world is it when there are no barriers, when what you seek to make public and to argue about is irrelevant to any serious policy or issue, to the Constitution or to any statute? How do you deal with that? And Fareed Zakaria, he had an interesting statement on the air today, which was basically a refresher of his very well written editorial that I saw in the Post, may appear elsewhere. And he has a respectable voice. But he says what's going on in the Middle East is not genocide. Well, it appears to me that both sides have the intent of genocide. They both want to destroy each other and wash them off the face of the earth. That's religion for you. But that's a lot of other things. It's discrimination. It's an intolerance of difference. It's a fear of inclusion. It's a fear of getting along. It's a desire to fight old wars like Hatfield-McCoy. So his question, Zakaria, is, was the response by Israel proportional? Well, you could ask that issue, but doesn't it end at the door of both sides killing civilians, non-combatants, women and children, suddenly? And what is it in the character of humanity that is so helpless before this outrageous destruction of humankind and of those whom we are always talking about? Men and women, should save them first, you know? There's a failure that is planet-wide, and it is that we do not value life, whether it's a handgun in Texas or a missile in the Middle East or super bombs aimed at civilian centers in Ukraine. Are we curable? Curable of our need, even though it's an active minority that does this, you know, people that studied warfare their whole life and have to pick up the weapon of choice and use it, suspicious and fearful of others. Where does that come from? How does it matter so much to people who will never profit from it, never have that power, never end the battle? It just goes on and on. You can read any book you want. My friends who lean on the Old Testament, look at that. Look at those stories going back thousands of years. Okay, look at the New Testament. Jesus was beaten and crucified in public, hammered to a cross with nails, not tied there, and they ran a pike into his side. You know, the stories that are in the Bible alone tell us that man is not ready for freedom, not ready for governance, not ready to share this planet with anyone else. And that's why people like Aristotle and Plato tried to design governments that would work. The founders in America, in their own efforts during the period of the Enlightenment, tried to do the same thing. But here we are, failing wonderfully. And if we the people don't keep talking about it, it will get worse. The devil's workshop appears to be the entire planet. And it's not over there, it's at home as well as abroad. So, I say, have a good day. I'm even warmer than when I started talking. And I look forward to talking to you tomorrow if the weather permits. All the best from my Cathedral of Trees. Bye-bye.